concerns over the management of the road and its tolling revenues. Now, when you look at what the committee recommends, it does recommend that the Ministry of Works and Transport immediately takes over the operation and maintenance of the expressway, while the Uganda Revenue Authority takes charge of toll revenue collection with an electronic payment system introduced to strengthen accountability. Now, on the other hand, the committee further wants a forensic audit of the tolling system and Pinnacle's revenues, investigations into the alleged tax under-declaration, and probes into the officials at the Ministry of Works and Transport and the former Uganda National Roads Authority over decisions that allegedly cost government billions of shillings. Well, and in a major finding, the committee says that the one-year extension of Pinnacle's contract issued on May 20th, 2026 lacked the required approval of the Attorney General and was therefore unlawful, arguing that there is no subsisting contract with Pinnacle Security Limited. Now, the committee has also recommended investigations with a view to prosecution of officials involved in the procurement, management and oversight of the expressway operations, as well as the installation of digital audit systems to ensure tighter control of toll revenues going forward. Now, all that and more is coming up on NTV tonight. I'm Joram Paul Sonko, on sign language is Maureen Nambaliwa. Welcome to the broadcast. But first, your top stories.
NTV Tonight, brought to you by
DFCU, going further together.
Your top stories tonight.
The Ministry of Works and Transport terminates the contract with immediate effect.
The operator of the NTV Expressway, Pinnacle Security Limited, could lose the multi-billion shilling contract,
having neglected or failed to perform his obligations,
following Parliament's recommendation on the same. Police have revealed that so far over 170 taxis have been impounded and will soon be handed over to the Inspectorate of Vehicles for thorough roadworthiness inspections.
The next action to be taken against them is what we are yet to know.
This as the crackdown entered its second day. Also on NTV tonight. As taxis become fewer on roads and fares rise, more passengers are embracing train services on Kampala-Mukono route, raising fresh concerns about the quality of its services.
And look, here we're talking about blaming the ADF for the assassinations.
The prosecution in the treason case against opposition figure Dr. Kiza Besigye and his co-accused Obed Lutale has today continued to present video and audio recordings to court as part of the evidence.
DFCU, going further together.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Joram Paul Sonko, and our sign language interpreter is Maureen Nambaliwa. And so it begins. The operator of the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway, Pinnacle Security Limited, could lose the multi-billion shilling contract. The drastic measure is incumbent upon the government to implement, stemming from the recommendation of Parliament. Now, several individuals at the Ministry of Works and Transport and the defunct Uganda National Roads Authority could also face prosecution for the mismanagement of the project. We have the report with Jackson Onyango.
Operation and toll collection system.
The Physical Infrastructure Committee of Parliament recommended the immediate termination of the contract of Pinnacle Security Limited from operating the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway in a report of the inquiry into the management of the first duo of four-lane toll road in the country. Parliament was told that the government should not hesitate to take the drastic measure, fearing that it could lead to litigation and possible financial loss. They defended that the award of the contract to Pinnacle was in the first place irregular and illegal because the advice of the Attorney General was never sought.
The lack of Attorney General's legal advice, therefore, was an illegality and cannot be cured. Therefore, there is no subsisting contract with Pinnacle Security Limited. In case you're fearing financial implications court, there's no contract.
At the inception of the project, the government signed the contract with the French firm Aegis Road Operations SA, which subcontracted Pinnacle Security Limited, arguably at the time. However, 2 months before the expiry of the contract, Aegis recommended to the agreement of the defunct Uganda National Roads Authority and the Ministry of Works and Transport that Pinnacle assume all the responsibilities of operating the expressway. During the one-year contract, Pinnacle was assigned to manage the toll road for 36 billion shillings, which was pinpointed out as exorbitant and abnormal.
Remember, our average collections per month are 42 billion. Per year, sorry, are 42 billion. Now they again have another extension of 36 billion, meaning we are now looking at 6 billion for Uganda.
When the Pinnacle management interfaced with the committee, they defended that the 36 billion shillings was a remainder of the original 122 billion shillings contract they had signed with Aegis, but the amount was not utilized. Annoyingly, however, was the fact that despite Pinnacle being part and parcel of managing the expressway, the investigating committee accused them of doctoring traffic and revenue data. It was pointed out that Aegis and now Pinnacle underdeclared the collected revenues, misclassified vehicles, operated the revenue collection system manually, enabling leakage. They refused to furnish the government with the source code of the computer software to enable auditing. Aegis and Pinnacle permitted free passage for up to 100,000 vehicles in some months, other than those exempted from the payment of the tolls.
It reports to have more 104,494 more vehicles than ours. But again, what beats our understanding, they report less revenue.
All this was in the absence of an independent traffic monitoring system, which the technocrats at the Ministry of Works are accused of installing on the old NTV road.
This is a system, it just has a control box on both sides of the road, and they put sensors underneath the road. And it costs just 200 million. So we expected the minister at least install this one to help us audit these people. But to our surprise, they installed it on the old NTV, and not a road like this of strategic importance.
Also faulted in the report is the Office of the Auditor General. The report indicated that at no moment did the Auditor General conduct a financial audit on Aegis during the 5-year contract. It was pointed out that the failure was despite the Committee of Parliament on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises recommending at one point in time that the Auditor General conduct the financial audit.
The committee observes that there was a deliberate neglect of duty on the part of the Auditor General. The only audit he did was in 2023, and this was on the fence. You can see the Auditor General's report. He said there was no fence and the lights were not there, but he did not audit revenue. The Auditor General's report is also attached. He did not audit the revenue.
And we are going to continue to engage so that we empower that office. The question was, who audits the Auditor General? Just like the question, for us we are audited by the voters, but by everybody.
On top of the committee recommendation is the immediate termination of Pinnacle's contract. The Ministry of Works and Transport takes charge of managing works on the expressway. Uganda Revenue Authority should be handed the responsibility of collecting the tolls. The Inspectorate of Government should investigate the former Minister of Works Permanent Secretary with the view of being prosecuted, suspend the current Auditor General for being incompetent, investigate the former Auditor General with the view of being prosecuted, and recover funds from Pinnacle Security Limited. It is feared that the government could fail to repay the $350 million, approximately 1.3 trillion shillings loan at the current exchange rate, if the current state of affairs is maintained.
Ministry of Works officials informed the committee that the lifespan of the road was 20 years. Therefore, based on the current repayment of the loan, it would simply mean the government would not be able to repay the loan in the given lifespan above due to the high operational costs to private contractors.
The Minister of Works and Transport, Fred Byamukama, and the Attorney General, Sam Mayanja, had appealed to Parliament during the debate to afford them more time to scrutinize and understand the report before reporting on possible action.
I need time to read this comprehensive report because it is a very important report. So that I come back and report from the informed point of view.
Jackson Onyango, NTV.
Well, that report informs the basis of our poll question this evening. We're inviting you to share your thoughts on the ongoing parliamentary probe into the management of the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway. Again, share your thoughts on the ongoing parliamentary probe into the management of the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway. You can go on to X at NTV Uganda. The hashtag is NTV Poll, NTV Tonight, and hashtag NTV News as you share your opinion with us. And for those following proceedings on Facebook, you can as well share with us your feedback and opinion. Also, to remind you, we are streaming live on YouTube at NTV Uganda. Now, moving forward, the number of commuter taxis on roads in Kampala has dropped following the government's 100-day crackdown on taxis in dangerous mechanical condition. The reduction has left some passengers frustrated as they struggle to find taxis, arrive at their destinations late, and in some cases, pay higher fares. As the crackdown continues, taxi operators are asking government for at least 3 months to repair and service their vehicles. We have more.
Other taxi parks, business appears to be continuing almost as usual. But a keen look at different roads across Kampala shows fewer taxis on the streets than before the crackdown on vehicles in dangerous mechanical condition. Take Chagwe Road. On the Chiseka side, for example, the area is usually busy with taxis heading to and leaving the new tax park alongside border borders, creating a completely different scene. But today, the number of taxis on the road appears to have reduced. In some taxi parks, taxi leaders have also confirmed that the number of vehicles operating has declined.
Passengers are there, but there are not many cars because we have asked our drivers to work on their vehicles. Most are at garages, others are parked because they do not have money to service them. We have been telling drivers through the stages to repair their cars, but about 40% have not done so because of financial constraints.
Some taxi drivers did not wait for trouble and instead decided to service and improve their vehicles. Some have repainted their taxis and cleaned seat covers. The government operation has been welcomed by sections of the public. However, the crackdown has also created challenges. Some passengers are struggling to find taxis. They are forced to wait longer, while others complain that some drivers are carrying 4 passengers in a row where the seats are designed for 3, such as those on the Ndeje route. For some taxi operators, this is a blessing in disguise as they have decided to hike the price on some routes.
It has given border borders a chance. Taxis are not many on the road. Where border borders used to charge 5,000, they are now charging 10,000 shillings. They overload the cars, and when they see traffic officers, some passengers get out to bypass the traffic. Yet they have also increased fares by 1,000 or 2,000. I came running to catch a taxi, but they asked me for 5,000 from Nansana. I also have to return at 5 p.m. I have seen transport users stranded at every stage. Everywhere I went, I could not find a taxi.
But the taxi operators want government to work on roads such as the Nakauka route.
If you look at the poor Nakauka road, it is not appealing. The government directive is good, but fast work on the roads. They should have thought about the crackdown after working on the roads. Then they could start talking about DMC taxis. They chased our taxis from our route, but then brought coasters which were not there before. Was the crackdown planned? There are even patrols chasing our taxis off the road.
Amidst all this, operators are now asking government to give them at least 3 months to repair and service their vehicles before the 100-day crackdown continues. Some drivers, however, say they currently do not have the money required to repair their taxis and are now asking government to consider providing loans through their circles.
When they said 100 days, it was like they were telling us to go back to the village. We are asking the government to give us days so we can organize ourselves. Some of us do not have the capacity to repair our cars. We ask the government to help us. We have circles in different parks. The government should put money into these circles so our drivers can get loans.
According to the taxi drivers, they're expecting to meet government officials on Thursday to further discuss the matter. Norbert Atkunda.
Now, in a related development, the ongoing police crackdown on dangerous commuter taxis is pushing more passengers to the national train service, with the Uganda Railways Corporation recording a surge in numbers along the eastern route. As taxis become fewer and fares rise, the corporation says it will add 3 more train coaches this week to meet the growing demand, as NTV's Beata Moema reports.
The operation on commuter taxis, which are in conditions unworthy of transporting people, has left many passengers from the eastern route of Mukono, Namave, Nambole, Chireka and Nakawa boarding the train service as the few taxis on the road and border borders hiked the fares. The first train from Mukono arrived in Kampala at about 7:40 a.m., filled to capacity. Passengers were happy to have reached Kampala on time, although many had reservations about the crowded conditions inside the train.
Our movement today has been disrupted. Usually, there's plenty of room to sit, but today there were so many people on board that we had to struggle.
For those who missed the 6:30 a.m. trip from Mukono, another opportunity came later in the morning. The train made a return trip to Namave to pick up more passengers heading to Kampala. At Namave station, however, the coaches were almost empty when the train arrived, but that did not last long. Passengers waiting at the station quickly rushed to board, having waited for the train to arrive. As the journey continued, more passengers joined at different stops, taking advantage of the service after missing the earlier trip.
For me, I am really very pleased to see that at least the train is offering us the best service. During the crisis when taxis are off the road, and at least we are cruising from Boyogede to town. Within 20 minutes, then we are there.
Many of those on board say the train has offered them a more affordable alternative, but they want government to expand the service to cover more destinations and provide more coaches.
There is so much traffic, especially Chengera. You can spend like 2 hours just between that very short distance when you're on that road. So the government should really work on that train because it has no traffic and it reaches in time. So people will be enabled in everything they are doing, whether it's going to work, whether it's business, it will fasten our economy.
As the train moves, ticketing officers continue collecting fares from the growing number of passengers. Despite the increased demand, the ticket price remains unchanged.
The fares for us, they are constant. From Mukono to Kampala, it's 3,000 shillings. Then from Namave to Kampala, it's 2,000 shillings.
Uganda Railways Corporation management acknowledges the increase in passenger numbers and says it has no plans to raise fares. Richard Nkuna, the Principal Health and Safety Officer at Uganda Railways Corporation, says the corporation is instead working to increase capacity.
Yeah, these days we have experienced an increase in our passengers from Mukono, from Namave. You know, we always have 2 trips in the morning and 2 trips in the evening. So people have increased because taxis are not operating, and we're encouraging the passengers to come. We always have good services without jam. There is no stress. We always move on time.
Nkuna says 3 additional coaches will be introduced this week to accommodate the growing number of passengers.
They are right now in the workshop being finalized. We have more 5, which we have also started rehabilitating. So in these 2 months, we have a total of 8 coaches to be added on. And we also have plans under AFCON, which we are working on, to bring more 50 coaches which are going to handle the fans who will be traveling from Kampala to Nambole
for football.
It is now 4 years since Uganda Railways Corporation announced plans to expand passenger services within the Greater Kampala metropolitan area, including the Kampala to Chengera route along Masaka Road and the Kampala-Bujuko route along Mitiana Road. Those plans are yet to take shape. For now, commuters on the eastern route are hoping the additional coaches will provide some relief as they search for a reliable and affordable way to get to work and back home. Beata Moema, NTV.
Well, that report brings us to our first break this evening. We do return shortly after these commercial messages, but here is still to come. Still to come. High airfares are emerging as a constraint on travel and tourism between Uganda and Kenya, with the private sector calling for measures to make regional air connectivity more affordable. And in sport,
it is very good to win the first match.
The Ugandan Lady Volleyball Cranes have made a perfect start to their campaign at the CAF Women's African Nations Volleyball Championship in Nairobi, in Kenya.
Hello, Mr. Mkasa.
Hello, how are you?
I'm okay, sir. Are you the broker?
The original one.
I was told you have very good rentals.
Hey, that is right. How many bedrooms do you want?
I want 3 bedrooms.
Okay, did I tell you of the price?
Yes, of course. 500,000.
Ah, no. This is the Visare went a bit high.
Why?
Because the paint we use is of good quality. So the place gain the value.
Which paint?
Global paint.
How?
For the ceiling, for us we use Global Mat. And for the inside walls, we use Global Silk Vinyl.
Okay, tell me about the outside walls.
Outside we use Global Weather Coat Emulsion so that the walls don't peel.
I'm really impressed. The precision you put while painting, I'm willing to pay any amount.
That is true, because here for us quality is paramount and the price becomes Global Paint, a reliable product.
Institutional transformation starts with people. This September, Uganda's largest gathering of professional returns. Welcome to the 31st ICPAU Annual Seminar, themed Transforming Institutions and Lives for Sustainable Growth. The 3-day event is designed to challenge how you think, lead, and grow. Discover how AI is reshaping institutions. Discover how to build sustainable investments and generational wealth. It's more than a seminar. It's an opportunity to learn, connect, and transform. Join us from the 2nd to the 4th of September at the Imperial Resort Beach Hotel, NTV, or join us online. For fees and registration, visit www.icpau.co.ug.
From the grandest stage, the badges change, but the passion remains. It's a special goal! Cometh the hour, cometh the man!
This football is from the heavens. What a story this is! 10 months of drama lie ahead. The stage is set.
The biggest stars from the world's biggest leagues on Supersport. It's on DSTV.
On the 1st of September, we gather to celebrate and honor God's mouthpiece, the prophet to the nations, Prophet Elvis Mbonye, the prophet whose life's labor of love is to see Christ fully formed in us. And this year, every nation, tribe, people, and tongue will stand before the holy throne and worship God. Tuesday, 1st September 2026, 5 p.m. at the Zoe Grounds, Plot 47, Chigolweza, Kampala, Uganda, along the Entebbe Express Highway. Entrance is free. For reservations, call, send a WhatsApp, or visit our website at www.prophetelvis.com/honor. This is how we do it.
Welcome back. You're still watching NTV Tonight with me, Jerome Paul Sonko, and Maureen Nambaliwa on sign language. Now, a key witness in the treason case against jailed former presidential candidate, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, and his aide Obed Lutale and Captain Dennis Ola has presented fresh video and audio evidence in court. The witness, Andrew Wilson, claims the recordings capture meetings in Geneva, Switzerland, where he and Dr. Besigye discussed a plan to assassinate President Yoweri Museveni and later blamed the attack on the Allied Democratic Forces, the ADF. But NTV cannot independently verify the identities of the people captured in the recordings, as well as the witness allegations about what was discussed. Daniel Kibet reports that in a new development, Obed Lutale has re-instructed his lawyers to return to court after the legal team previously representing him withdrew from the case, citing intimidation and security concerns.
For the second time in the trial, the prosecution has presented video evidence which key witness Andrew Wilson claims captures a meeting involving Dr. Kizza Besigye. Wilson told Justice Emmanuel Baguma that the latest video was recorded on the 28th of January 2024 at an apartment in Geneva, Switzerland. The roughly 50-minute video shows two African men whom Wilson identifies as Dr. Besigye, Joel Wakaima, and himself. The conversation in the video is largely incomprehensible, but Wilson told court that he, Dr. Besigye, and Wakaima discussed how to assassinate President Museveni, including what he described as a plan involving drone attacks. He further alleges that the attack would later be blamed on the Allied Democratic Forces, the ADF. Wilson claims he secretly recorded the meeting using a covert camera concealed inside a power bank, which he says was placed on the main table in the apartment.
These devices are commercial devices. And you see with the video, they record in loops. We didn't buy more expensive equipment because we were running on a very tight budget.
Wilson told court that the audio runs for about 2 hours, while the video recording presented in court runs for about 50 minutes. But importantly, the recordings do not, by themselves, establish who is speaking or appearing in them. Wilson's identification of the people in the footage as Dr. Besigye and Joel Wakaima is his claim and has not been independently verified by this particular report. Likewise, the alleged discussions about assassinating President Museveni remain allegations presented by the witness and are subject to challenge by the defense. The witness also referred to an earlier meeting said to have taken place on the 29th of October 2023, also in Geneva. He claims the discussions at the two meetings were connected to the alleged plan.
We discussed again financing, what support they had for, again, causing civil unrest, and how they plan to take over the country by force of arms.
Wilson says his preparations for the January meeting began before the three met at the apartment. He told court that he first met Besigye and Wakaima at a hotel before accompanying them to the rented apartment. He says this was intended to ensure they were not being watched or followed. According to his testimony, Besigye later suggested that his apartment be used for the meeting.
And that's the apartment he shares with his wife, who I understand is a senior member of the United Nations. I didn't want to go there because I already had the cameras set up in the apartment I rented. If that's a United Nations apartment, it would be under surveillance.
The allegations form part of the prosecution case against Besigye, who is charged with treason and misprision of treason with his longtime friend Haji Obed Lutale and UPDF Captain Dennis Ola. While Lutale and Captain Ola are attending the proceedings before the High Court, Besja is being tried in absentia after court ruled that he had disrupted previous proceedings. But there has been a significant change on the defense side. Obed Lutale has instructed his lawyers to return to court and represent him after the team previously withdrew from the case. The lawyers had cited intimidation and security concerns. The new team includes Lutale's younger brother Farouk Kamulegea, his daughter Mariam Obed Lutale, and 2 other lawyers. And the evidence is not yet complete. The prosecution says more evidence will be presented when the trial resumes tomorrow, Wednesday 26th August 2026 at 11 a.m. For now, the recordings have placed an alleged conversation at the center of this stage of the trial. But whether the people seen and heard in the recordings are indeed the accused, and whether the alleged discussions amount to evidence of a plan to assassinate President Yoweri Museveni remains a matter for the court to determine. Daniel Kibet, NTV.
Well, now, the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Kampala, Paul Semogere, has expressed concern over people who are detained, particularly during the election period, but whose cases have not yet been heard. He noted that the continued detention of people without their cases being addressed undermines peace and harmony among Ugandans. He has called on authorities to urgently respond to the cases of those detained. Now, Semogere made the remarks during the launch of Peace Month in the Catholic Church at Lubaga Cathedral in Kampala. Dorothy Najita reports.
According to the 2025 National Court Case Census Report, the judiciary is overwhelmed by the backlog of 46,542 cases carried over the previous years out of 167,353 cases that were still pending hearing. Among these were cases involving people who have been detained for political reasons.
Thank you.
While launching the Peace Month of the Catholic Church today at Lubaga Cathedral, the Archbishop of Kampala Archdiocese, Paul Semogere, expressed concern over the many cases still stuck in court and not being heard, especially those involving people arrested during the election period, stating that this has greatly disturbed peace in the country.
There is violence, that some people are in prison, and the cases are not brought before any justice system. So, all those are elements of pieces, of small pieces that may think that are too small but big enough to bring people to be uncomfortable in society and to cause non-violence, to cause violence amongst the people of God.
If some people sometimes are thrown in prison, you cannot say every time that these people, they are for their own interests. So we must know that the issue of democracy is very important.
As the church prepares to celebrate the Peace Month of September, the Archbishop also asked Christians to desist from acts of domestic violence, but rather embrace peace, promote justice and reconciliation in their homes, and inspire others.
Let us come together to embrace peace and foster unity during this special month of peace. The goal is to foster a culture of peace that transcends conflicts and promotes healing, understanding, and unity in our society.
Following the new report by Kampala Capital City Authority on HIV prevalence in Kampala, which was released this week, Semogere also called upon people living with HIV to carry a merciful heart towards their fellow people who do not have it so as to prevent its spread.
Of course, if you are not married, don't involve yourself in such activities. But if you are going to marry, then you want to find out your status so that you can avoid those circumstances getting infected by somebody who has it already.
As the country prepares for the National Cleaning Day on Saturday this week, the Archbishop has appealed to Ugandans to embrace this exercise as well as daily hygiene in their homes in order to keep themselves and their surroundings clean.
And I think that should be maintained and said by our leaders. But this is just an example. But to wait for one day to clean yourself, you'll still be that guy and smelling and so on. So, but I think this is a moment of reminding Ugandans that our culture of throwing away everything anywhere is going to destroy our environment.
The church's Peace Month will be officially opened on September 1st at Gaza Parish. It will be followed by several activities, including Benchwanuka Memorial Day prayers, Peace Run, and a National Day of Prayers Against Human Trafficking, among others. Dorothy Najita, NTV Tonight.
Well, now, away from that, Uganda is stepping up consultations to finalize its nationally determined contributions, NDC 3.0, with government targeting the end of September to complete the process. The commitments are expected to guide the country's efforts to cut greenhouse gas emissions while strengthening adaptation, climate resilience, and access to climate finance. Benjamin Jumbe reports.
From prolonged droughts to devastating floods and landslides, communities across Uganda are increasingly feeling the effects of a changing climate. But as the impacts grow, the question is no longer only about how to respond to disasters, but also how to build a more resilient and sustainable country. It is against this background that the Ministry of Water and Environment is conducting consultations on Uganda's Nationally Determined Contribution 3.0, which sets out the country's commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions while strengthening adaptation and resilience to climate change.
This is a planning meeting. And the aspect of equity, I think they are going to be very important. People-centeredness is very important. And ensuring that whatever we are doing it in the interest of our country, our people, in the line of sustainable development.
The ministry says the new NDC is at about 85% complete, with consultations being held with civil society and other stakeholders before the document is finalized.
So moving ahead, we are going to do consultation for the private sector, and then we shall do a national validation, and then we shall subject the NDC to political approval processes, where we shall take it to Parliament and Cabinet to pronounce the final approvals of government. So we have the draft, and it's what is going to be consulted on. So apparently I could say that we have done over 85% of what is required of us to do, and we are targeting to complete this process by end of September. We should have an approved nationally determined contribution.
The new NDC, which will be the second for the country, also introduces additional areas of action, which include interventions on short-lived climate pollutants such as black carbon, protection and maintenance of peatlands, and measures in the oil and gas sector to reduce methane emissions.
So the measures under oil and gas are not GHG in nature, but they are just mitigation measures that could respond to what would be the impacts of exploration of oil and gas.
Semambo adds that the adequate resources, particularly climate finance, are critical if Uganda is to effectively adapt to the impacts of climate change.
Then it is also a tool which helps us to mobilize international and domestic climate change resources. Because if you don't have the NDC, it means that you don't know your priorities, you don't have your commitments. So whoever wants to give you resources in the mainstream climate change financing mechanisms, like the GF, the Adaptation Fund, name it, you must demonstrate that you are going to implement the national commitments.
Stakeholders say Uganda's climate action must ultimately translate into improved livelihoods and stronger communities.
In those many commitments, the actions and targets, they must be people-centered. Because at the end of the day, for us to ensure that we reduce on the greenhouse gas emissions, for us to ensure that the population is resilient enough, for us to ensure that the population out there can be in position to mitigate the impacts of climate change, to ensure that they can adapt to the impacts of climate change, they must understand what has the country prioritized.
It is about adaptation and resilience. Colleagues, we all know that adaptation in this country, because already we are experiencing impacts of climate change, it cannot in any way come secondary. Let us be very critical about this. And therefore, whatever priorities are being set, they should be grounded in the local realities and at the end of it, strengthen resilience.
Many communities still remain very vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. This reality suggests that the scale and pace of adaptation actions has not been sufficiently met.
The United Nations Development Programme says it remains committed to supporting Uganda's efforts to strengthening community resilience.
Let us work together to strengthen national adaptation capacities, accelerate climate resilience, increase Uganda's commitment to greenhouse gas emission reductions, and advance our shared commitment to a sustainable and prosperous future.
I'm Benjamin Jumbe, NTV Tonight.
Well, we now take our second break of the evening. When we do return, we have business news with Malcolm Musime. I will be returning later on with the latest from the world of sport. Stick around.
Take a look around, and you'll see everything can be reimagined. Everything rough can be smooth. Everything old can be fresh. Everything can be made vibrant and full of attitude. The world is what you make it, so why not make it yours? Guinness Smooth. Make it yours.
You need a bigger space to grow your business. You need more equipment to meet demand.
You need to make sure everyone gets paid on time.
In business, you need advice, solutions, and sector expertise when it matters.
Your new office space looks great. What's next?
We get it. Have some business banking.
Can I have a light, please? What is this?
Castle Light, the best testing light.
Try it.
Try it, try it, try it. Da, 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 da.
Guys, look at this post.
Nothing hits like extra cold. Castle Light. Try it.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Business. My name is Malcolm Sime. High airfares are emerging as a constraint in travel and tourism between Uganda and Kenya, with the private sector calling for measures to make regional air connectivity more affordable. Speaking at the launch of the 5th Uganda-Kenya Coast Tourism and Innovation Summit at the Ministry of Regional Foreign Affairs headquarters in Kampala, the PSFU Executive Director, Stephen Asimwe, said the cost of flying between Entebbe and Nairobi discouraging greater movement of travelers and businesses. He says more affordable air travel would help deepen tourism flows, increase visitor spending, and support wider economic activity. East Africa's desire to deepen regional tourism and trade faces a familiar obstacle, the high cost of air travel. The private sector says expensive regional flights are adding to the barriers that already make it harder for businesses and travelers to move across EAC markets.
But the cost of flying between Entebbe and Kigali is $450. This is a 40-minute trip. Similarly, the distance in terms of time between Entebbe and Nairobi is 50 minutes. KQ, you are. Uganda Airlines can have it. But my tickets by this morning, because I'm flying tomorrow morning at 8, I won't tell you which airline, but give and take, they're the same. It's $800.
The concerns raised at the launch of this year's Uganda-Kenya Coast Tourism and Innovation Summit ahead of the main conference in Mombasa. Uganda's incoming Consul General says stronger connectivity will be critical to unlocking the potential of the two markets.
People who are managed cannot go by bus. Apart from the young people go with the auto, those trucks. It is fun for them. But the people who can stay longer and stay in that high-end hotel, we won't fly. But they are mindful that from London to Paris, it is $50. Why are you charging $450? They are mindful. So they write off that route. And
will not really come to your parks. They have all the parks, but they want ginger. Concentrate yourselves to ginger. They want ginger. They are crazy, this Gen Z. They want to land in ginger.
But while road and rail remain important alternatives, air travel offers the speed businesses and tourists increasingly demand.
Because as Jambo Jet, it's how do we enable make travel easier? How do we support businesses? How do we support trade? How do we support anyone who needs to move, tourism? So that's where we play.
Available statistics show Uganda Airlines currently advertises Entebbe-Nairobi return fares from $218, while Kenya Airways' own Uganda booking page is showing $392, with some August combinations reaching $482. Malcolm Sime, NTV Tonight, Business. Okay, so from affairs to take, because the global economy and the theories that have sustained it for generations are under strain. From the Russia-Ukraine war to US strikes on Iran and now the rapid rise of artificial intelligence. Shocks are forcing economists to rethink how to adopt. A new theory by Russian economist Sergei Brodnov, known as non-omni, proposes moving beyond market capitalism and compulsory material labor towards knowledge-intensive technology and human development. Makerere University is set to become Africa's hub for implementing this research outside Russia.
The 21st century has upended economic order, shifting from controlling production and markets to a knowledge-based economy driven by data, technology, and human development. The success of Brudonov's Nunome theory depends on how African states localize it to their realities, explains Makerere University's Professor Robert Wamala.
Our understanding in the context of Africa may be different. What is viewed in the external world may be actually different from what is understood here. And so, like you posed several questions, we should be able to pose questions like, what does an intelligence-driven economy mean in a continent where there are still significant challenges around digital infrastructure, around research financing, around unemployment, around inequality and access to knowledge? And so we should therefore develop a framework that connects the knowledge that we produce, the indigenous knowledge in particular, the education, the research, the artificial intelligence, and the entrepreneurship, and how these all connect.
Uganda is racing to achieve Vision 2040, aiming to grow tenfold from a $50 billion economy to $500 billion. The question is, how will this growth reflect among the population and support innovation?
Today, what separates nations is not the volumes of natural resources you have, but the knowledge gap and your capacity to solve society issues. When you look at the NDP4, it has a number of programs that speak to the concept of an economy. If we are transitioning from today to where we want the economy to be, that does not talk to development for the sake of it, we must address the missing middle. One of these missing middle is our power supplies, the energy. If you are going to invest in high-tech technology, you have to have stable power.
This also calls for a change in the budget approach.
It envisions a transition from the current economic model, which is largely privileging the market, to a new industrial society of the second generation, and ultimately to a society where knowledge, technology, and human potential are the true drivers of progress.
In today's polarized world, nations like Uganda feel the ripple effects of wars fought elsewhere and disruptions of fast-moving technology. Analysts say this may be the moment to embrace native solutions, like Brudanov's concept already tested in countries such as Russia and China. Collins Mhuez, NTV.
Thank you, Collins. So in the interest of time, we'll move on to the markets now because the shilling remained broadly stable against the greenback, supported by exporter hard currency inflows despite corporate demand, and money markets liquidity remained balanced with the short-term rates holding steady. The Bank of Uganda is set to hold the treasury bond auction, which we'll keep our eyes on and inform you. On the other hand, on your screen, the market, the exchange, the all-share index edging higher in Tuesday's trading, with the index rising to 2,319 points. The local companies index was largely unchanged at 587. Trading was led by blue chip counters, Stanbic, MTN, and Bank of Baroda. All right, then, into the global markets now, because oil went tumbling down. Oil prices fell over 3% to a one-week low as traders shrugged off the latest U.S. sanctions campaign against Iran, viewing economic pressure as posing less risks to oil supplies than a military escalation. Gold, on the other hand, dropped after scaling a more